Aloha! We have Melissa Shad here with us today. How are you, Melissa?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having
And
me on the show with you.
oh, it's an honor. Thank you for your time. You know, you're a busy person. You're an entrepreneur. You're a mom. Um, you got so much going on in your life, which I think is great. Which I mean, it's awesome that you'll take the time to share with us and stuff. And and
Absolutely.
and the funny thing is that we see each other at races, and being who we are, we see each other for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and then you're gone usually. And all I see, I ask sometimes people on the broadcast, I ask them to turn around because I don't recognize you except from behind.
Oh, did you see that?
Yeah, oh, that's
Oh, wait,
Melissa.
no, it's usually the ponytail that's flopping in the wind.
Well, I could tell you a story about ponytails, but I won't.
Okay.
So Melissa, where do you guys live exactly? Are you in Lapahoihoi or?
We're in Papaloa, so that's right next to Laupahoehoe. So the school, the community charter schools here in Laupahoehoe, but I'm right next door to the Papaloa Country Store, which kind of reopened up a few years back. So that's how most people know it. So when clients come to my house, I can just say, hey, do you know where the Papaloa store is? I'm right next door. So now everybody knows where I live. And we were just talking chit chat before how I'm really an open book. So, ask me something, I'll tell you, So yeah,
What do
we're
you
right.
think your best time in a marathon will ever be? No.
Oh man, my best time in a marathon. So that's funny you should say that. I have been shooting to break 4 hours because I know it's possible. And for whatever reason, something always gets in the way. And this year I was going for sub 4, and guess what got in the way? So if it hasn't been an injury or a life event or COVID, one of these days before I can't possibly do it, I'm going to break 4 hours in marathon.
Oh, I think that's a given. I think you're a lock for that.
Yeah, well, and I consider myself a non-runner. Like I do it in my hashtags. I'm not a runner. And there's a backstory to all of that, but I'm
Yeah,
totally.
that's because that's like you have so many athletic capabilities and stuff and skill sets, I think, that I've seen and stuff that you aren't particularly known for one. Where did you grow up? Where'd you end up growing up?
So I grew up in Ontario, California. It's about 70, 80 miles east of LA, and Inland Valley, kind of your like every tract housing, every house is look like every third house looks like your house. Neighborhoods, so riding your bike around the block was fun, and playing out in the street until the street lights went on, then you got to go home, and you could see them go on down the street, and you're like, oh, they're coming on, we got to go home. I was outside all the time, and my brother loved to play video games, and I was just gone. Like, I was I was
Were you
outside.
were you anywhere near the Speedway?
um well, yeah, actually now, but it wasn't a speedway when I was back then. or
Oh,
if it, or if it was, I just didn't know about it. We were kind of a baseball family, so we grew up. I played softball in fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. That was kind of actually the first sport that kind of led me into my athleticism, I guess. So it was fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. I remember walking to the store again. I walked to the store. I think it was 2 miles away.
uh,
I just walked to the store, and I remember seeing a flyer on the door saying Little Girl League softball. And I'm like, huh. So I came home, I told my mom about it, and she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I want to play. And she's like, okay. So she signed me up, and I remember my first year playing. So out of 3 years, they put me in right field. And if you know anything about baseball, right field, where not a lot of activity happens.
yeah,
That's
I
where
was a
the
right fielder for a while too.
not so good players go. So I'm sitting on right field, and I remember sitting down like, oh my God, this is so boring. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep doing it, and get up to bat, and I just couldn't hit the ball. And then, it was miserable. And then they figured out that I could pitch. So I ended up becoming a pitcher. and winding up, doing the whole softball wind up thing, girl thing. My brother would make fun of me when we'd try to practice, and he wound up and smashed his bedroom window with the ball, making fun of me. And I was like, that's your fault. That's on you. Like, so softball kind of got me into like, I guess, schedule or routine fitness, you know, the routine of it. Otherwise, I just kind of did my own thing. I mean, to this day, I'd probably call myself an introvert. You know, I mean, I'm definitely, if you know me, I'm very, you know, I'll talk, as you can tell. I'll open up and I'll talk. But in general, I really like to keep to myself. I like my quiet time. I like my space. I think a lot. I'm writing notes a lot. I'm reading. You know, and I kind of just don't want to be bothered. Like, leave me alone. I want my space.
What? So it was you and your brother? Is that the only sibling?
I have the older brother. He's 2 years older than me, and he still is on the mainland. So yeah, we grew up Ontario. It was I went to school at Chino High School, and it was in high school that things started to kind of fall apart for me.
Oh, in what way?
And in life got hard. So I was trying to, you know, study to go to college. That was kind of a goal, to go to college. Nobody in my family, except for my grandfather, as an adult, went to college. So it was kind of a goal to go to college, kind of do that next big thing. I remember asking my mom when I was little, what comes first, high school or college? And she said, high school. And I said, oh, well, I want to go to college. And she said, well, if you go to college, I'll buy you a typewriter. And I'm like, woo, well, give me a typewriter. So that was a ways back, you know?
Yeah, but people don't typewriters? What are those?
Right. And so when so I'll get to that in just a minute, actually. But so as I'm studying and I'm trying to do this, you know, focus, and I'm taking all the honors classes, and everything's getting really hard, and really having a hard time struggling, having it all done. I was a band geek. So from junior high up until 10th grade, I was in marching band, and I played the flute and the piccolo, and was really good at holding my line, and they would put me up front and center because I could hold the end of the line and I could keep my foot down, and, you know, so that was what we did. We won field shows, we won parades. We were a really competitive band in the Inland Valley. And I just kind of remember talking to a friend who, I was feeling so down on myself. Life was hard. I contemplated suicide. There was a lot of heavy stuff weighing on me, like boys didn't like me or weren't interested in me. So what's wrong with me? And you start going through those teenage girly things, and you really question your purpose, right? Like, why am I here? What am I doing? And then my math teacher had mentioned that they were going to start up a swim team this year if I wanted to join. And they remembered me from being a freshman, asking me, who taught you how to swim? And I was like, I taught myself how to swim. And they said, well, did you take swim lessons? Were you on a swim team? And I was like, no, I didn't even know what that stuff was, right? And I said, well, it was in 1984, the Olympics came through LA. And the torch.
I was there.
You were there?
I was there.
My mom took us to the street, and I thought we were waiting for a parade. And we all lined the street, and you hear the horns honking and everybody cheering, and this guy goes running by with the torch. And I'm like, Mom, what is this? And she says, it's the Olympics. And I'm like, what are the Olympics? And so that summer, I remember sitting in front of the TV with my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and my Cheez-Its, and I would put my Cheez-Its in a train, and I would eat them one by one and push the train forward and watch this swimming happening. And the year before, my parents had put in a swimming pool. Still very nostalgic for us to have a summertime, the next summer that you can use the swimming pool. And I would watch them. And again, the cameras at that time, you just see lines of people going back and forth. There's no underwater footage or anything. And I'm just like, they hit the wall and then they bounce. How do they do that? And I jumped in the backyard pool, and I was like they do like a somersault, and they, and then I'd go back and I would just stare at the TV. Okay, I'm gonna go do that. And like both arms come out at the same time, and I'm gonna go do that. and then they go on their back. I'm going to do that. And I was just blown away. And I spent that summer, I remember counting laps, and it was like one Saturday I swam 66 laps. And the next day I was like, I can do better than 66. So I did 77. And so I got into high school, and it was always a joke because the freshmen had to take swim class as a freshman.
Yeah.
So everybody knew you were a freshman. You have to take swim class.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want swim class. Like, this is going to be great. And my PE teacher was like, everybody watch Melissa swim. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I have no clue what I'm doing. When you want me to swim, okay, I'll swim. And they're like, okay. So she's like, that's what I want you to do. And then she asked me, she's like, who taught you how to do your flip turns? And I go, well, I did. Is that thing that I do on the wall when I turn over? Is that a flip turn? Oh, well, yeah, I saw that on TV. And she's like, okay. And so anyway, it all kind of led. So that come sophomore year, when they started up the swim team and they asked me to join, again, I had no clue. But I found myself in the self-help aisles of the library. And I was going through this depression. I was, wondering what's wrong with me. And I kept navigating towards the self-help aisle in the library. And I would just go there, just get lost in a book. And really, if you ask me, I don't think I'm a reader either. But I would look at these books and I would read it. And I found books on swimming. And I would show up to the pool to my coach, and I'd be like, look at this. Like, this is how you're supposed to do it. I'm telling my coach how we're supposed to do it. And she's like, there's a program for people like you. And I was like, what do you mean? So she shipped me off to lifeguard training in WSI, which is water safety instructor. It was like, it's a 40-hour course, and you do pool work and you learn how to teach swimming and become a lifeguard. And she's actually one of ended up being my boss at a swimming pool during the summer, where I would lifeguard and teach swim lessons. And obviously, her knowing who I am, she knew whatever she gave me, I would do. So she gave me a synchronized swimming class. And I was like, I don't teach synchronized swimming. So I'm like doing little pinwheel things and oysters and like all these little crazy things with these little 7 and 8-year-old girls. And I just remember being that age and remember being in awe of, gosh, I'm getting emotional talking about this, of swimming at 7 and 8 years old, because that was when it really touched me, like the Olympics. And I remember just embracing that moment with these kids and putting this whole choreographed program together and having the parents watch it, and the parents just beaming, right? And they were so proud. And so then after that, I accomplished that task. They gave me the adults. And I'm like, oh, so I'm like 15. No, I think at that point I was 16 years old, because I got it at 15. And 16 years old, and I'm teaching adults how to swim. Like, they're not going to respect a 16-year-old. Yeah. And they're like, no, you got this. You got this. I was like, okay. So I'm like teaching these adults, and I'm just like realizing I'm talking to them like I was talking to the 7-year-old. And so from then on, it just seemed that swimming always followed me. And every time that, I went to college in UC Santa Cruz, it was, really just to back up before I even leave that whole swimming thing, I just say that swimming saved my life. My whole disposition changed when I found the pool, when I learned of it as a sport, when I learned of it. I was actually jealous of the kids I would teach, because I'm like, I never got to learn how to swim like you're getting right now, and I really just gave it with passion. I was so passionate about sharing that gift, and it just kept following me. So when I went to college at UC Santa Cruz, my parents were going through a divorce. I had worked really hard to do everything I needed to do to get to college, and then my parents told me, you can't go.
Oh.
I'm like, oh no. You guys are gonna split. You're gonna do your thing. I'm starting my life. Like, I'm going to college. And I had gotten accepted I had only applied to 3 schools, because I really was doubting that I was going to actually go. And one was Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach. One was San Diego State, and the other was UC Santa Cruz. And both of them were for marine biology, or all of them. And I grew up on the boat with my grandparents in Dana Point. So we would spend our summers at Dana Point fishing and whale watching. And riding the dinghy around the harbor and, you know, so those are really good, you know, memories. So ocean and water just was always around me, but I never really had like a structure, you know, around water activities. And we grew up water skiing, you know, that was our kind of our family thing. My dad had a boat and we would just take off to lakes every summer and, you know, houseboat or get a trailer or camp and water ski.
So you're a mermaid in essence.
I'm a mermaid. I definitely love the water and grew up around it and don't know it without it, but the structure of swimming helped me mentally with really kind of sifting and sorting who I am and what's important. And for me, over it all, it just movement kind of became the most important thing for me. That if it was structural and more routine, then I knew that would happen every day and it would help me mentally.
Do you think it was your enthusiasm for the sport and how it affected you? I'm sure is a big part of it to get you out of your funk. But do you think also part of that was did you recognize you had the ability to teach?
Not at all. That was totally my swim coach that saw it in me. And I shared that, you know, for everybody who I've been teaching for 29 years now. And, you know, like I said, no matter where I went, it just followed me. And I kept saying, I'm not going to teach anymore. I'm going to figure out something else. I went so when I got to UC Santa Cruz and I was swimming, I found a master's team at the university. So I was lifeguarding at the university and my boss was the head coach of the college team. And he did the master's program at noon. So I was like, well, I guess I'm lifeguarding. I should probably stay in shape. So I started swimming with him at noon. And this was my freshman year. And then freshman year, you know, I was kind of I wasn't like a goody two shoes per se, but I was a conservative girl. So coming from conservative, you know, small town to Santa Cruz, my eyes were like, holy crap, people live like this. Like it was a totally different world.
You might have to explain to us, some of us non-swimmers, I know now from paddling and stuff, what a master's group means.
Okay. So masters is United States Masters Swimming. It was created in the 70s, basically as you age out of age group swimming. So your USA swimming that a lot of the kids that you know, like the Kona Dolphins and my son swims for Academy Swim Club. And, you know, so you have those age group swim programs, USA Swimming. They reach 18, they're like, well, what's next? We don't get to swim anymore. So they designed this program for adult swimming. So 18 years and older, and people tend to get a little freaked off by it because they're like, wait, master swimming? I don't even know how to swim. And I was like, well, are you older than 18? They're like, yes. Then you're a master's. And they're like, what? And so I'll take people at my home. I have a pool and I'll teach them to swim here. And then I'll move them up to my master's program that I run out of the Laupahoehoe swimming pool when they're open.
Oh, they've been closed?
Yeah, they've been closed. Some of the pools opened and we had some filter issues. And I told them back in March, can we please get this filter fixed while the pools are shut down for COVID? And it's like, please, 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 but we're dealing with county and nothing happens. And so now the pools open up and they said, oh, well, we can't because we have water clarity issues. And I'm like, of course you do. You haven't fixed the filter. So we've been meeting at the beach on Wednesdays as a group. And that's kind of one of our fun hurrahs for this, for the summer is I had a gal that her goal was to be able to swim out in the ocean comfortably. And she started with me in November. She's followed my posts and she's seen that we do our master's swimming. And she's like, and we ended up at this party together for a friend. And she's just, and it was all pretty much the master swimmers, and she's listening to the conversations and she's like, I'll come on Tuesday. I'm like, really? So in November, she started on Tuesday. And then last month, we got her out Beyond the Reef at Richardson's. Yeah, right? Like, woo! So if she's watching, absolutely, Jane totally made it beyond the reef and did an open ocean swim, and super, super awesome. So when it comes to my adults, it's kind of like me with the kids. I just love taking people from not knowing to knowing. That's probably maybe one of the reasons why I do all the different things. Like behind me, I have my, spin bike, and then I got my TRX straps, and it's really about evolving the athlete, because I truly believe that each and every one of us has an athlete within us. It just hasn't been awakened, right? It's there. It just needs to be fed. And people don't really know how to get started and do that. And I think one of the reasons why I call myself the people's coach is because that was me. Like I didn't come from an athletic background. I just kind of fell into certain things. And even through college, I was getting my degree in marine biology, but I took a comparative comparative physiology, and we compared elite athletes to marine mammals.
Yeah.
And I was
marine mammals?
To marine mammals, and
which mammals?
Well, mostly dolphins and whales, particularly whales, because they'll dive really deep, and you look at that whole mammalian reflex and what the body goes through when it goes into an anaerobic state. And as far as elite athletes go, they're anaerobic quite often to push, to get their level or threshold up. So I was just fascinated by the elite athletes, and I realized at that time that I wasn't even focusing on what was happening with the marine mammals. I could care less. I was over here going, wait, so if I run or I push heavy weights, or if I how is this going to make me faster or me better? And so that was my junior year. And that was missing a whole nother year. So sophomore year high school, sophomore year college, bad years. Both times contemplated suicide. Sophomore year in college, I stopped swimming. I was looking for something different. And again, I stopped swimming, but I had only been swimming for 4 years, because I started as a sophomore in high school, and then I did the 1 year in college, and I skipped out on that, and I joined weightlifting. So as a weightlifter who's eating pizza and drinking beer at 2:00 in the morning, well into their freshman years, I gained the freshman 50.
I was going to ask you, if you don't mind, if you were during those bad years, were you self-medicating, alcohol or whatever?
Yep. I did it all. I did yeah. Yep. We were in Santa Cruz, if you know Santa Cruz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. I kind of reached a rebellious stage, and I was trying things out. And then I remember self-medicating and being on this one hallucinogen, thinking, when will this stop? Like I make it stop. I wasn't in control, right? So then that's when I realized I'm kind of a person that likes to be a little bit in control of things. And I just I literally quit everything cold turkey. I went home my sophomore year. I was living in what's called a French house on campus. So you had to speak French when you were in the house. And thank God I know. I thank God to Edith, my Frenchy friend from France. She forced me to speak French, that by the time I left there, I was dreaming in French. So I knew it must have been working.
Let's go say.
That I came back to school after spring break, and I had this boyfriend that was just playing with my mind. And I just remember telling him, you know what? Don't ever call me again. I don't ever want to see you again. And I just left. Like, I dropped everything, left. I showed back up to campus. They immediately were like, what happened to you during spring break? I said, I made a decision. Like, I'm not going that way. I'm not going to live my life this way. This is not who I'm going to be. I was 20 years old. I bought my first pair of running shoes, and I would run at night. We had a half-mile track on campus, and I would run if I was in the light, and I would walk if I was in the dark, because I didn't want anybody to see me walking, because I wanted to be able to run. So I'd hit the light and I'd be like, okay, I'm running. I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard. And then I'd hit the dark and be like, oh. And then I would realize I'd get closer to the light and I'd slow down my walking because I'm like, oh, I gotta go again. I gotta go again. You know?
Intervals. You were doing bricks.
I was doing some interval training. But I really was focused on wanting to lose the weight, wanting to get, you know, my health back. My junior year, got right back into the pool. I swam 6 days a week, didn't miss a day of swimming. I showed up on Saturdays. My coach slash boss for lifeguarding was like, what's happening with you? And that summer, when I was teaching swim lessons and lifeguarding, I was swimming on my work breaks. You know, in between, I was doing my laps, and then I found a private coach when I would go home in Southern California, who coached me in the after work, and I'd ride my bike to the pool and I'd ride my bike home, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And my swim coach at college asked me to join the swim team for my senior year. And I was like,
that's a pretty big honor. So UC Santa Cruz.
Right. I was totally honored, except I told him I'd give him 2 weeks. And he's like, okay, give me 2 weeks. And I didn't handle it. And I told him, I said, honestly, I don't want to just swim. He had an Ironman plaque in his office. And I remember hearing, because I was swimming with the masters during lunchtime, I was swimming with a lot of triathletes, and I would hear them talk about triathlon. And I said, I want you to teach me how to do triathlon. And he goes, oh, okay. So I got like a handful of people, and we ended up with 13 people. He put together a triathlon course for us on a class on campus. And at UC Santa Cruz, you didn't get any credits for any extracurricular stuff, PE. That was just something to do.
Couldn't graduate with a 6.0.
Right. And I was a science major. So I was like there was no getting off easy over here. So I told him, I was like, there's no way I'll graduate in 4 years if I swim and try to finish the science degree. Like, this just isn't, and I was paying for college. So I needed to get out in 4 years. I said, but can you teach me how to do triathlon? So he put together a course. We did an off-road triathlon there on campus at UC Santa Cruz. I was totally hooked, shin splints and all. Still hated running. Just like, it was the worst. Can't do it. But for whatever reason, I was driven.
What kind of bike did you have?
So I was doing a mountain bike. It was a Trek mountain bike that my mom had found from a friend, you know, where it was like, oh, my friend has a bike, you should buy his. And so I bought it. Totally didn't fit me, but it was a bike. So that's what it was a little too big, and it was purple. So, you know, I had this like purple bike. So I would ride this mountain bike up. And if you know Santa Cruz, it's the city on the hill, UC Santa Cruz. So it's all uphill to get to school. So when I was living off campus, I would ride my bike up the hill. So my senior year, I got a student loan out to buy my friend's bike, which was a Kestrel with campy gears, you know, it was all the big to do way back then, right? She was a pro cyclist who was leaving school to go to Peace Corps.
Oh.
So she said she would sell me her bike. She's like, I rode it once. And I'm like, what? So I went and looked at it, and $1,800 for this totally pro decked out Kestrel back when. This was 1997.
So the shifters were on the tube down below.
Yes. And I was just so stoked, because I was like, it's a student loan, and all I have to do is say it's for transportation. And so I was going up and back to school on my Kestrel. I scheduled my work shift to be the first shift at the pool for lifeguarding. So I scheduled all my classes so that I had enough time to ride up to the pool so I could shower, work my lifeguarding shift, then go to one class before I came back for swim practice, and to go to another class, and everything just started to fall into place. Like, I'm so structurally routine in how I do things that as soon as I found a routine and something that I had a little bit more control over, my life just everything just kind of came together, the flow and the exercise, and it all, I kind of was finding purpose, you know, meaning and energy. And I was thriving in all areas of my life with just having physical fitness being really the main trigger. You know,
That was
everything.
your guiding principle, was your routines through fitness.
It totally is. And that's pretty much what I preach today is movement is everything. You need to move every day. And not just like, oh yeah, I went to the post office and then I, you know, went to the store or I, you know, walked to the mailbox or whatever it is. And it's like, no, you need intentional movement. You know, it's like people have the watches and they see how many steps they do in the day. And I was like, okay, so you had a busy day of doing chores around your house.
Yeah.
But go out there and do something intentional. Like you have to physically put the time aside and go for a 30-minute walk or, you know, bike ride or join a class, you know, I mean, which is why I do my things on Zoom now, because there aren't really group classes and people aren't comfortable doing it. But like, you know, the TRX straps are super cheap and affordable, and I can help people, you know, get into a pair of those. You can hook it on a door if you don't have your own hook that you can hook to a beam. Spin bikes, you know, a little bit more pricey, but people have them, or they have a way of getting onto them. And then I do classes that require absolutely no equipment. And it's like, there's no excuse. It's just get out, get moving.
My across the street neighbor, he says we should go into a business of making treadmills now because there's no treadmills. You can't buy treadmills anywhere.
Oh, right. Yeah, because people are just trying to move.
The TRX straps, are those, that's resistance basically?
So you use body weight resistance with gravity. So it's, they're nylon straps. So it's all a proprioception tool, meaning that you use your body weight. And then there's this, I don't know if you can see it on the top, but there's some little play in it right here. Yeah. So if you're not even within the straps, that they'll slide. So it requires your body to work on both sides equally, and everything is activated through the core. So you hold a plank position through like every exercise that you do. Like, let's see, now you're gonna get me. We already did this today. We had a class today. But like, so for instance, a TRX row is just a simple row back. You're squeezing your shoulder blades back, working all of this, but you're holding plank position through the whole time. So my core is just firing, and everything is all activated through the core. It's been probably, out of all the classes that I have taken over my years of trying to figure out fitness and what works for me, this is probably my absolute favorite piece of equipment because it's simple. You can do every exercise you can do on a machine. I mean, unless you're looking to get big and bulky,
yeah.
You know, this is functional fitness. This is, you can get your groceries out of the car without throwing your back out. This is, you can pick up your grandkids or your kids and not be like, oh, my shoulder hurts, my back hurts. You know, it's functional, you know, and for me, you know, people look at me and they just think I'm intense. And it's like, well, I might be intense, but what I'm teaching is meant to be intense. Like, it's meant to help you through your everyday life, you know? And I'd have to say my 3 takeaways from COVID, the 3 things that I learned during COVID are: 1, never miss a spin class. And and I say spinning because it's a great place to have non-impact with intensity. So if you can have a way of doing some sort of HIIT training, you know, that kind of a thing, that's kind of where I was going with that. With, you know, for me, don't miss a spin class. So I would do my own spin workouts on the bike just to get it. But you get that high intensity without the impact. So you really work that anaerobic. And then core strength, whether it's with TRX straps or like my Monday Friday classes, I just do on the floor, no equipment. They're amazing. And I've got my cousin. Oh, my cousin. I got to talk about my cousin. My cousin, Amber Wan. They are the Wans in Colorado. If you read the book Running with Sherman.
Oh, okay. Chris's thing.
Yes, exactly. So he did Running with the Burros, right? So my cousins run the Pack Burro Association, right? Because it's a bunch of asses.
It's not in Buena Vista. What town is it in?
Yeah, well, that's one of the races. They have Buena Vista. They have, oh my gosh, you're going to put me on the spot. Oh, it's like the big one. Come on, help me out. It'll come to me.
Leadville?
Yes, thank Thank you, Leadville. And then there's the Leadville 100 and, you know, that whole, right, so that whole community. So then they had like the 2 races combined where one went, it's like a lot of miles. And if you haven't done it, it's one of my bucket lists, Uncle Joe. We got to go do running with the burro. But my cousin, anyways, back to her, has dealt with low back pain, hips, knee, like you name it. She's got like all these, she's had back surgery. She's my age. She's 40. Well, she's 45. I'm 44. And she's got 4 children and now she's a grandparent and, you know, but she's had all of these injuries and she says, Mel and that's, oh yeah, I guess my name is Coach Mel on this thing, huh?
Yeah, they can't see that though. That goes away. Like Joe Fireball goes away.
Oh, okay. So the 4 months of doing my routine with me Monday through Friday, 2 days with no equipment, and then 2 days with, we were doing Wednesdays as well, but I kind of ditched out on Wednesdays for my swimmers so we could kind of reconnect. But in the beginning, we were doing 5 days a week of all of this floor cardio core. And she's like, everyone's asking me, what have you done? She's doing these burro races because they're still doing them. Yeah. Because you're on a rope with the burro, you're 6 feet apart. And so they're doing it. And they run that and they orchestrate the whole thing. Her and her husband, Brad, won. And I mean, you talk about a story of fitness, exercise, and animals. And her son, Benjamin Wan, who is now 4 years seizure free, which is a whole nother story, but by using cannabis, actually, they run with the burros, and there's just this connection with the animals and humans, right? And I knew this was going on with my cousin, and I put my son in horse lessons last year, and he's on the ADHD borderline. I mean, can you help him? You got me all spazzing out over here. His father can't, you know, he's doing all kinds of other things. So you can't help the poor kid. But, you know, when I saw my son interacting with these horses, I just thought, oh, this is just like a proud mom moment, right? Like, oh, look, he's like really intimate with the horse and you know, the horse is responding. Oh, okay. And I kind of brushed it off until the horse trainer was like, Melissa, there's something here. And I go, well, what do you see? And she says, he's gotten this horse to do things I can't even get him to do. I was like, what? So now I'm going, okay, so I saw that, but I just kind of brushed it off because I'm just, I'm a doting mom, right? And so I've been really paying attention, being really aware of it, especially with swimming. I taught him to swim when he was in my stomach. He doesn't even know it. He was swimming by the time he was 2 by himself, and people would be like, how is his kid swimming? And I was like, I just raised him in the water, you know? Like,
throw him in the water and he took off.
He just swims. And he is so good. He helps me teach my little kids how to swim. So when we have swim lessons, he's in the water and he's just like, so he is just amazing with animals and kids. And then if you see him outside, you're like, oh my gosh, he's a teenage boy. Calm down. What are you doing? But you put him in with little kids and animals, he's a totally different being. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's you know, I'm certainly not saying he's autistic or anything, but I've had autistic friends in my life that they were able to come up to me at times and tap right into how I was feeling. And I'm going, how did you know that? And I think it's appreciating other people's talents and skills, no matter what their age, of being able to be empathetic and not just being superficial. And it sounds like your son is a great empathetic person. I mean,
so he's on that. We actually saw someone up in Waimea last year, right before this whole COVID thing hit, because I was kind of onto it going, you know, something's not like, I don't understand why he's struggling with things to me that are so simple. And, you know, he goes to school in Parker, and they are actually in school right now, crossing our fingers. They're going 5 days a week. And, you know, it's a college prep school. And for someone like me, I would have thrived in that. So I put him in the school, right? and I just kind of see how he's interpreting certain things. And I didn't understand why it was so difficult. So we took him to this tutor, Judy. I don't want to say her name because I need a spot with her. No, Judy up in Waimea was, I mean, just in 30 minutes, we had an hour meeting. In 30 minutes, she knew exactly who Bowden was. She pulled out a chart and said, look, on a chart, teachers teach here. Most students that are learning around here. You are over here.
Yeah.
So he is, like you said, I mean, not, I guess not saying autistic, but he's definitely on a different spectrum of learning. And it started to make sense to me because I would say certain things to him and he would really like flip what he'd say. He's like, well, that's what you would tell. I can't even think of an example right now, but I would say something and he would do the opposite. And he's like, well, that's what you said. And then I'd kind of think about what I said. And I'm like, oh, you understood it like that.
Oh yeah, I have a nephew. He has Asperger's.
Okay. See, that's, I mean, we're on that spectrum. Well, so she was really starting to like help us out. But the coolest thing about kids like that is they see things entirely different, and where they can go and what they can do is entirely something we wouldn't have even come up with our own for them ourselves. So I'm letting that go. You know, I had this whole image of, oh, we go to school, we swim, this me being the controlling person, I'm going to put this all in a row. And I'm kind of just, you know what, let's just see where he goes with this and what he's getting out of it. And the remote learning hit in March. We had just seen her in February. So now I'm kind of onto it and starting to try to pick up how different ways I'm supposed to say things to him for him to understand it.
Yeah.
And COVID hit and he went to remote learning and it was scary. So now I saw my son in the position I was at as a sophomore in high school.
Oh, wow.
He said it. He told me, did you ever think about if I killed myself? And I'm like, what? No. Why would you? This is just a hard time. It's a hard time. You have the rest of your life to but then I realized the pressure that was being put on him to try to figure stuff out that he wasn't quite getting. So we got a few different tools to work with. His teachers have been really great helping us around all of this, but it's like he said it himself, if I were to take an IQ test, I probably would have a really high IQ. And I'm like, I think you would. I really think you would.
Well, it's like my nephew. He never went to, I think he went one semester to college, but I encouraged him to move from the Midwest to Silicon Valley because he was a brilliant person in computers and he ended up designing computer games and he's brilliant.
Yeah, I have a cousin that did the same, and he's an older cousin. So like I was mentioning, nobody in our family had gone to college. Well, he was older, so I was like, well, he's going to get the college, and because he was brilliant. I mean, I remember in 3rd grade, he would come to my house as a sleepover with a book like this that he would read, and I'd be like, what? And my son does the same thing. He loves to read. He's just like into books. And so I think about that, school's not for everyone. Where is our purpose? Where are we going with all of this? And so when I listen to him talk and share his ideas, he's on to certain things. I'm just hoping I'm able to guide him and not deter him from, not be that naysayer. I don't want to be a naysayer because I really think anything is possible. If you've got an idea or a vision for anything, I mean, it's the reason I do my coaching that I do, because anything is possible, Ironman, right? And it took me almost 10 years, but I qualified for Ironman. I didn't live on the Big Island. I lived on Kauai.
Oh, you got to try Kauai? Well,
yeah.
Let's go back to college. You had graduated college, maybe, and had you met your husband yet?
Nope. So when I graduated from college, so that was 98. With a degree in marine biology, although it was kind of / physiology. I'd spent hundreds of hours in Año Nuevo as a docent studying the elephant seals that haul out. So I was doing that, and they offered me a job as a ranger, which I'd be in a pretty good position if I took a job as a ranger. Like, okay, that's all right. Well, I denied it. And I said, I don't know. My life has been so structured and so routine. I was kind of ready to just kind of let him fly by the wayside. I denied a work abroad program to France, and I denied an assistant coaching job at UC Santa Cruz with my coach. So Mickey Wender. So Mickey Wender was my coach, and he then ended up going up to Seattle, University of Seattle, I think it was. He ended up not being there that year anyway. And I followed my roommate and my diving partner to Kauai. So Marlene Rivera was my person I followed to Kauai. Her parents they started up the ATV business over there on Kauai, doing really well. Obviously, probably not right now. I should reach out to them, actually. But they run a bunch of the tourist programs over there on Kauai. And I got a job with Outfitters Kauai. So I was doing bicycle downhill and kayak tours. So we would kayak up Wailua River and hike up to the waterfalls, have lunch, come back and kayak them back, and have to lug the tourists that couldn't paddle their kayak back up the river because you're going into the wind by the end of the day. And, so everybody started calling me Muscles. I worked with a bunch of guys. It was all guys. And one of the guys, we mountain biked together. He would lose me on the trail. I remember so I was firefighting. I got a job as a firefighter. I was one of 2 women on the fire department, and I found that job. Again, I was swimming with the master's team. I had thought about teaching or firefighting when I was in college. Like, what do I want to do? Do I want to teach, or do I want to be a firefighter? Totally 2 different things. And I thought, well, if I'm firefighting, I could be a personal trainer on my days off. And if I'm teaching, I could coach the swim team. So I'm at Outfitters Kauai, and one of the guys says, hey, Melissa, there's short science teachers this year. You should go apply. And I go, well, that would be one of the maybes on my list, right? So I go, and literally my name and my phone number gets put on a yellow Post-it note. I show up to my interview, and there's my name and number on the yellow Post-it note on her desk. And I was like, this is interesting. Okay. So she interviews me, asks me about, I have no teaching credential, but I can teach. Like, you give me something. I mean, as my high school swim coach saw, you give me something, I'll figure it out. Everything. Marie Forleo, she wrote a book called Everything is Figure-Outable. I love it. Oh. Everything is figure-outable. So I'm at that place in my life where it's like, do you need a degree or a certificate? Because I probably have more knowledge and experience by having gone through the process and doing than actually getting the certificate and the piece of paper to say that you got it.
Oh, what's the saying? Those that don't do teach, and
right. That's and what was the quote of the week for me on Monday was, are you a consumer or are you a producer? So I was like, ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, creator.
Like, you can just go to school and learn and learn and learn and consume and consume and consume, or you can like get out there and get some shit done. Oh wait, was I not supposed to say that?
That's okay.
But where was I going? Oh, so I taught. So she hired me, and I said, this is either a really bad thing or a really good thing. I'm not sure which one. Hiring me on the spot. So I taught 7th grade life science and health. And ironically, at that same time, the swim coach was done. She's like, you want to coach? You can have the team. And I was like, oh, this is either really good or this is really bad. I really haven't figured this out yet. Mind you, I'd been on the island so this is like barely 2 months. Yeah. I got here on July 7th, 98. So I've been here for 22 years. Literally, I've spent half my life in California and half my life in Hawaii. And
all about balance, right?
It's all about balance. Gotta keep it in the flow. The 1 year of teaching was horrific. I said, oh my gosh, if I were to ever have kids and still be living in Hawaii, they will never go to public school. Again, I was raised in a very conservative town. Girls wore dresses, boys wore pants.
Welcome to Hawaii.
Right. And again, I went to school in Santa Cruz and went, oh my God, I can't watch this. So I've been definitely changed. I'm probably the black sheep in my family. I'm the
Were
one
you
that,
ever curious about Koala Basin Marine Mammal Lab over in Honolulu?
no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I worked there for a while.
Oh, okay. I think my mom had met a fisheries guy who lived on Kauai when I was going to school, and we were talking about this whole Kauai thing. So she was trying to like set me up with him, and I was done. Like in my mind, I was going to Hawaii to do Ironman. That's what I was doing. So I knew Kauai wasn't Ironman, but it was going to get me closer.
Okay.
And I had no idea how it was going to happen. And I didn't really have any friends. So I moved there in July. And so Ironman's October. And I had no idea what Big Island was. I tried to book a room. And everything was sold out. So I was like, oh, Waikoloa. Okay, I'll book a room in Waikoloa. No idea. Go to Waikoloa. There's a room available.
Close enough.
Close enough. So I book a room in Waikoloa, rent myself a convertible Mustang, right? Like the little tourist thing. And I'm totally by myself. I had nobody there. I just was like, I've got to go see Ironman. If I ever do it one day, like I just got to go see it. So when I show up and I'm parking, figuring it out, trying to figure out the whole thing, I end up running to a whole bunch of people from Santa Cruz. So I was like, oh, this is great, right? So the free days where you just kind of got to go do whatever you wanted to do. And I was just in awe of, I stayed until midnight to watch the last people fall, come across the line. And I was just like, this is amazing, and I think when people grow up in Hawaii, on the Big Island in particular, you're kind of numb to it, I think. You're kind of like,
yeah,
it's Ironman. Oh yeah, everybody does Ironman, and I was like, well, I don't do Ironman. Like, so I was kind of the kid looking through the window at the candy store, like, I want to do this one day. Like, and then I just started meticulously planning, and it took me, from the time I made the decision, like, okay, I'm going to do this for real. It took me 3 years to actually qualify, because you had to qualify because I wasn't a Big Island resident.
Yeah.
And so the first year I attempted, I got third place and there was the two girls were always duking it out in the islands.
Oh, well, which race did you do? First ones?
2005.
But did you do Honu or?
Oh, so I qualified at Honu. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was kind of easy. We never even got to how I met my husband, but it was easier for me to train because my husband had gotten a job. Well, at the time was my fiance. Got a job with the Big Island Fire Department. So he moved over here and I was still living on Kauai firefighting. So we would like meet up on our days off. And I would stay on Kauai. I had my like bestest roommate ever, who we always were like, why are we getting married and having babies? We should just be roommates forever. And, but we did. We got married and had babies, and she's still on Kauai and I'm over here. And when he was over here, I could really focus. Like I wasn't distracted. My husband's got 2 older kids. So there was that dynamic, and everything just kind of all of a sudden freed up. And I was like, wait, if I'm going to get married and have babies, I got to get this out of my system. Like, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And so the first year got third place. The second year I got second place. And so I was like, okay, this is the year, because 3, 2, then it'll be 1, right? This will be the year. And then I got second place, but my third year, except the girl that beat me was from, I want to say Washington. And she said, I don't want the slot. And so I ended up getting it. I'm like, oh,
Rolled over. Yeah.
So it rolled over to me. So out of default, I got the slot.
And that was the old course too. That wasn't the course that we've had the last few years and stuff. You had to go out to South Kuniku Road and stuff out that way on the run.
No, we went, on the run. On the run.
Yeah, you went across the golf course, because that's back when it was the Maui Bay was the hotel of choice. I was the aid station director, so.
Oh. That race was horrible. Like, yeah. I remember like, Yeah, there was one year, the first year they made it an Olympic distance race.
Yeah.
And you could qualify on the Olympic distance. I'm like, this is it. Like, I am the queen of Olympic distance. Like, I got this. And then I didn't. And I was like, oh, nothing's easy for me. Like, everything I've ever had to do, I've had to work for. So I'm like, all right, so now I have to figure this out. And again, I'm not a runner. So I would come out of the water, pretty top in the group, you know, hold steady on the bike ride, go, hit the run. And I just see the backs of people's ponytails. And I was like, oh my gosh. So when I was really focused that final year, I stopped swimming. I was like, I got swimming.
Yeah.
You don't need to swim. So I swam once a week with my coach. I had Coach Tom Coxwell was coaching another team for Island School on Kauai, while I was coaching Kauai High School, and we shared the pool. And I knew that I was moving to the Big Island, and I was trying to like, can you take over? Like, I just want to make sure my kids are all good. Can you just take them? Can you coach them? And he did. He accepted the job, and he did it 1 year before he ended up moving. But he would go out on his one man and paddle with me while I would just swim along Poipu. And I would just go that whole big stretch of Poipu, 2-3 miles once a week. That's all I did, once a week. And the whole rest of the week, I would just run and bike and just try to get my efficiency down. And you know, and then my paddling, I was paddling canoe, so my year would always go January to about June. I would train for triathlon, and then in June I would hop in the canoe for long distance, which girls started hating me because they're like, she didn't do regatta all season, and then she just gets to hop in and jump and be in the first crew. And then I was like, well, we did a time trial and I beat you. Like, does that not count?
Politics and paddling?
Politics. I hated it. So yeah, so I would do triathlon until about June, and then I would intermix it with paddling in July to September to do the, you know, Nawahini across, you know, Molokai Channel. And I think our last year of our big crew, we got top 10, which was like a big deal for us. We'd been fighting for top 10 forever. And we kind of put together our solid crew, which ended up, like, I got pregnant, moved to the Big Island. Another woman died of breast cancer. Like, it was kind of an aha, you know, like, I mean, I remember sitting there at the end of that race, all of us so emotional, realizing like our run had come to an end. Like, this is it, you know. And that's the last I've ever paddled, was that. And then I moved to the Big Island, and yeah, I miss paddling. But you know, you look out here, like this is my view, which is awesome, right? And I see the ocean all the time, right? There's the ocean, but you can't get to it.
Yeah, really.
You can't get to it over here. So when I first moved here, I'd see the waves and I'd think, oh, I could be out there paddling. And then I'm like, no, you're not paddling down there. And it was just a big adjustment. So I realized after having a kid, I found myself in that same depressed state that I found myself in multiple times.
Huh.
And I tried really hard. I was not a good mom first, emotionally. I mean, if you ask my husband, he'd say I was a great mom. But emotionally, I kind of hung on, and I had told myself, give myself a year, breastfeed, even though I had infection after infection, and it hurt, and my hips hurt, and you know, everything I did hurt. I didn't piece back together. So then I dealt with running issues. I couldn't run anymore, and it was the 2011 Honolulu Marathon. I was about at mile 3, and I realized something was wrong. Like, my knee hurts. Like, that's weird. I did all of my training. I was going for my sub 4 hour with Kendra. That's another topic of conversation. And Kendra actually missed that race because she got injured. She tore something.
Yeah,
so
she had legs. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had done our training together, and we were both like, we're going, like, we were solid. And then I hit mile 3, and I'm like, something's wrong. And then I'm thinking, I don't remember Honolulu Marathon being uphill the whole way. Like, there was like this strain in my leg, and it was like I was running uphill the whole time. And I got to mile 15, and I said, I gotta walk. started walking from mile 15 to 16, tried running again, and I tried to do the walk jog until mile 18. And I said, my race is like done. And the golf cart people were like riding right next to me, like waiting for me to say I was done. Like I could tell I was hurt.
Yeah.
And I was like, roll up the window, Melissa. You don't see him. You are going to get to that finish line in one way. Like I was not, I can walk. If it takes me all day, I will walk and I will get to that finish line, but I am not quitting. And my son was 4, and I remember telling him, I'll see you at the finish. And that drove me, you know, where I was like, I'll see you at the finish. I didn't say I was going to get on that cart and you're going to take my foot in. And I crossed that finish line, and it was the worst finish ever in any race I've ever done. I collapsed. I remember seeing people collapse at finish lines. I'm like, why don't you train for these things? Like, you shouldn't collapse at the finish line, you know? And I'd have these like ideas in my mind, and I got to the finish and I just saw those catchers and I just reached for them. I'm like, oh my God, catch me. Like I tore something's like, so it's really bad. It's really bad. And it ended up being nothing. I thought I tore my IT band.
Yeah.
And then they said, no, you tore your meniscus. Everything checked out, nothing, but it wasn't. It was nothing. And so to this day, one of the things that I'm really focused on with women in running is really the stress release around the hips and the pelvis, and strengthening your core to stabilize and support that, because, you know, the hips and hip bearing and the women, and, you know, depending on your Q angle that you have, you know, certain women are a little bit wider in the hips, and it does create up some issues. And so I'm a bigger runner. And so I found some ways that kind of help me, and it's things that I like to share with other people who have similar issues. And, you know, a lot of times they're like, my shoulder hurts. And I was like, well, it's probably your low back. And I'm like, I'm not going to diagnose you, but like, I know what you're feeling. I've been there.
And do you think it was maybe piriformis too?
So piriformis, tight piriformis. So then the gluteus medius stopped firing, and the IT was taking over the work of the gluteus maximus, and yada. So it's a whole imbalance thing, right? But if you asked a doctor to help you,
Take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. Yeah.
Well, my one doctor told, and I never saw him again after that. I won't mention any names, but he told me, so I gave it away. There's a he. He told me, your running career is over. And I was like, no, it's not. You don't, if I got hit by a train, or I fell out of a tree, or, you know, car ran over me, well, maybe we can have a discussion about that. But I was just running a marathon, and I'm like, something's off. Like, I just, like, you know, your body, you know, that whole intuitive sense, like, you know that there's something that you, and so I spent 3 years and thousands of dollars chasing answers. Completely avoided the whole Western medicine. Like, I mean, I'm not anti-Western medicine. I'm not going there with that, but it's got its place. And I just didn't feel that it helped me in that. And now, you know, here I am running walk to 5K programs, 5K, 10K programs. You know, I'm a certified running coach. You know, it's like, I'm not a runner. But
so how did you get Kendra back? Because there was a time, well, Kendra, if you're listening, sorry, but I know you dropped out for a while, and I would keep texting you privately to find out if you were okay. And I know she was having leg issues, but you got hooked up with her to do a 5K training?
She did. So actually, that was that's even after. So Kendra got the bug, and she took off, and she has just done amazing stuff. And she's, you know, doing this virtual Boston Marathon with Sally in a week or two?
Monday.
They're going to do it Monday. Okay.
Monday. And I don't know if Amy Young also qualified for Boston, and she already did a virtual. So I don't know. I tried to get them together to see if all 3 of them are going to do it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know she had mentioned something of doing it like between the 12th and the 15th. So I didn't know that they had actually figured out a date for that.
I'm just speculating, since I know the virtual is supposed to happen, I think, Monday, but we'll see. Okay.
All right. I'll have to reach out to her.
So you were juggling injury after Honolulu, and didn't, you know, it took you a while, and I'll put my little promotional thing for Steadman Hawkins Clinic in Colorado, which
Mm.
I'm a graduate of Stedman Hawkins. They did my knee many years ago, but they're one of the few places in the world that got it right because they're a sports medicine place. I mean, they asked me, they said, where do you want to come back to? They didn't tell me, well, you can't do this anymore. They said, basically, where do you want to get to? And that will be our goal, is to get you back to that place.
See, that's awesome. I mean, maybe there's places like that here and I just haven't figured it out. And being over on the other side of the world from Kona,
Oh, no,
sometimes,
no, there really aren't, because when people ask me, well, if you were seriously ill, where would you go? Airport.
yeah, it's right. It's right. Yeah, it's too bad because, you know, there's so many athletes here and there are so many issues that are such minor, you know, minor things to resolve that, you know, people are so quick to just be like, yeah, I can't do that. My doctor says I can't do that. And I was like, really? Like, I mean, I'm not your doctor, so I'm not telling you, listen to me, but is that really what do you want to be done? Like, is this your out? Like you kind of weren't enjoying it anyway, and this is just what you're using as your excuse to like get out? But you need to replace that. You need to find something else because otherwise you're not going to do anything. And then we're going to have other problems, you know? So.
Well, and you mentioned that like your tips now on to get you through COVID has been to not drop your cycling. And what's the second one?
The second one was to do core training. So whether that's TRX or but focus on the core for stability and strength within the core, balance. So balance drills and all those kinds of things, just amazing for the athletes. And then the third is never miss a day of movement. Do something, walk the dog. I don't care. Just do something, you know, so that's my 3. Don't miss a day. Don't miss a spin class. I mean, it could be one a HIIT class or some sort of high intensity, 1 or 2 days a week, right? And then your core, you can do that 5 days a week, like just something. So, you know, that's. I don't know if you've seen it. I started in May a Facebook group called Awakening Your Inner Athlete, and the whole purpose of that was my clients left my house, you know, like they weren't coming and I wasn't able to like touch base with them. And I started the Zoom calls, but they, you know, they're so used to being with me and in person, they didn't really like the Zoom. And I ended up with an entirely different clientele on Zoom than my in-persons, you know, so now I'm trying to merge them. Like, look, this is going to be a while. This is where I'm at. I'm on Zoom. Come back to me. But I was working with a couple of girls, one who's aspires to do a triathlon. And I just got her running. She was never a runner, so she's running now. And she doesn't swim, so that's going to be our next challenge to take on, is to teach her how to swim. And we had a couple of my clients really getting to a good place, and then COVID hit that I was like, no, like I didn't want to lose them. So I immediately threw this Facebook group together, like, okay, like if I can just keep motivating you, keep inspiring you, keep moving, like you can still run. You don't need me. You can just get out there and do it yourself. You can, you know, and I just was like, and, you know, I've kind of let that intensity go. I got a truck behind me.
Oh, that's okay. It's just background noise. That's okay. Yeah, I think it's been encouraging, even in my neighborhood here on the dry side in Waimea, that people have begun to use the street that they never had before. They're out walking, they're out doing things, because we're lucky. You know, I know the parks are going to be closed, what is it, tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, the parks are going to be closed and stuff, but we have so many roads and trails and stuff that we can go on the Big Island where we can still stay active. And yeah, I've seen more people proud that they can go walk to the grocery store instead of drive 2 blocks to the grocery store.
Right. Yeah, it's been a really interesting time just to see people's change. And, you know, I mean, even for me, when I'm out doing my regular runs around the neighborhood, I'm seeing different faces, and I was like, oh, right on, you know? So it is getting people to do something different. I think we've all probably figured out something in one way, shape, or form in our life. Oh, there goes my cat. To
Yes,
do
I
something
agree.
different. Yeah, to do something different or to find another way to go about doing it. For 2 years, I've had clients that, visit me while they're here for their like 3 or 4 months, and then they go back and they've asked me like, can you do online? Can you, so that we can just keep, when we're there, we can still do your classes. And I never did it. And in 4 days, I was boom, online. I was like, why does it take, it takes a crisis for things to happen. And in a sense, that was kind of what happened with me in my whole physical fitness realm. I was going through a crisis and I had to make a decision. Like, either I'm going to continue to live like this or I have to make a decision. So I was 20 years old and I made that decision and I've never looked back. There was moments where I kind of, I know, I'm like, if I can mute for a second. And
Oh,
then,
no, that's okay. The background of a jet is actually, to be honest, it's a welcome sound.
we had our neighbor cutting down some trees, so there goes
Oh.
the canister.
There he goes.
It opened up our view really nicely. So there's, what I don't like to see is like, people have one bad day or one bad week or a bad month or maybe even a bad year, maybe it's this year is really bad for them and they're having a lot of loss. I see that all the time, a lot of loss. I mean, we lost Sylvia first day of the year.
Yeah.
Like, our year's been pretty full of loss this year. I mean, I didn't even talk about it, but Sylvia was probably the first person that really connected with my son and understood, she dealt with horses.
Yeah.
And as his coach, she really, she got him, and he knew she got him. So that's been a loss in our family. It comes up periodically where he just starts crying and says, "Why Sylvia?" And
Yeah.
and so when your kid's hurt, you hurt, right? Here comes my emotion.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm trying to tell people is like, everybody has bad moments. You have bad weeks, bad days, bad months, bad years, maybe.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you have to give up, right?
Well, I try to focus on, because, every once in a while, and I've been doing this stuff for 26 minus 73, I don't know, 50 years or plus. I always try to focus on how I feel after I've done something.
Yes.
As opposed to thinking about doing it or anything. It's like when you're standing in the shower and you're going, I really don't want to go out and run.
Right.
But I'll feel better if I do.
That's right. And that's perfect. It's how my mom mentions the same. She's like, I just wish you lived closer so you could motivate me. I'm like, I'm right here. Like, I'm posting the stuff, I can, I said, do you think honestly, when I have it, like I have to create a schedule because I have to see that this is my to-do today. This is, the brain, you will set yourself up for failure if you continue to fail yourself, right? The brain remembers that. If you tell yourself you're going to do this and then you don't do it, then you're creating that habit of procrastinating or lying to yourself. It's really, you're lying to yourself. I'm going to do this today and then you didn't. Well, you just lied. And your brain reminds you of that. I said, but you can break that because you can just go out there and you can just do that. So you create up a schedule and say, this is what I'm doing today, or this is what I'm doing this week. And you go out there and do it. And I told my mom, I was like, do you honestly think that every day I wake up, I want to go on that bike ride? Or I want to jump in that cold pool because the pool is cold and I hate jumping into cold water. I tell that people all the time. I said, I hate jumping into the water. And they're like, what? But you're a swimmer. I was like, I hate it. I hate jumping in the water. It's the worst. It's the worst part. Like, but you're going to feel better after you do it. And you have to remember how you felt afterwards to dangle that carrot and get you out the door.
Well, as somebody who is in a master's degree category, the good thing is that as you get older, your memory becomes worse. So you don't remember how hard it was to do something. You just remember, I remember drinking Fireball at the finish, or
right. You're like, oh yeah, the finish line. That's a good place to be at the finish. But you can't get to the finish line if you don't get off the starting line. You
Yeah.
got to get off the starting line.
What do you
So,
have? Do you have anything planned as far as have you signed up for any races? I know 100% Kona went virtual.
okay, I didn't sign up for that. I am doing the virtual time trial, the KUA time trial on the bike.
Bay. Yeah.
That's next weekend, and I did the Hilo time trial last month, 2 months ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they actually did that one live, and I thought, well, that's good. Time trials are good because everybody's spaced apart. So time
Yeah.
trials good. So I felt comfortable doing that. I wore my mask at this, around everybody. And then once I got on the starting line, I took it off and off I went. But there wasn't a big crowd. There wasn't a big show up of people. So then, I got first female, but I didn't really think of it as a victory because I was like, well, my
Yeah,
competition wasn't here.
but it was a victory because your competition at the race was you.
Well, there's that. My competition was the fact that I really kind of did the same time that I did the year previously, with training by yourself on a spin bike, right? And you're kind of wondering, do I still have it? Am I good? There's no races to gauge yourself, so you're just trying to figure it out. And I'm just consistent. Every day I'm doing something that I know will maintain or push me towards. And I did the Lava Man virtually in my backyard. So I went back and forth in the pool, and there's way too many flip turns in my pool. It's not fun. And then I hopped on my bike on the trainer and I did that, and then I ran around the neighborhood, and it was like it kept me motivated. And part of me wants to go do Honu. I just was telling a friend yesterday that I was like, I kind of want to just do Honu on my own.
Well, technically Honu has not been canceled.
I did get an email that canceled it.
Oh, that must have been like within the last year?
Yeah, last week.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I've been kind of keeping an eye on it, and it's been rescheduled for. Oh, that's right, because it was rescheduled for Thanksgiving week, which was kind of like
first, yeah.
That would be tough.
We were doing Ken's tryptophan triathlon.
Yeah. I'm sad to see that one go away, probably more than Honu or anything else, just because that was such a great introduction for people to try. To do,
right.
To try to do triathlon.
Right. My son did it. So it was like, he makes 13 on Monday. So he was 12 and 11. We did it 2 years in a row. My husband and I did the tandem bike together. So it was like, he wasn't all about doing it, didn't really want the award, didn't want to take somebody else's medal because there's only 100 slots, So I had asked Kim, and he just kind of we want to do it as a family thing, but we don't need 3 medals for the family. And my husband's like, I don't need a medal. And so she did. So we did the tandem bike. And the first year my son did it on his little specialized bike. Grant could tell me, but I don't know what, 16-inch wheels or 14, I don't know.
Oh, I was right behind you guys.
Oh, that's right. That was right. That's right. Yep. And then we got him on a tri bike this last year, and he was kind of like, oh, this is fun. So then he went and did the 10-mile time trial earlier this year in February. And I think he started to feel like, oh, wait, now this is kind of hard. You kind of have to race. Like, this isn't fun tryptophan-ish kind of. And so he was a little beat. He's like, this is kind of hard. And I go, well, so I told him about the KUA Bay one, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm out. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's a hard one because there's a lot of the steep uphill.
Yeah, I looked at my bike because this other race that I was going to do, I probably needed to have some biking in there because I wouldn't be able to run as much as I needed. And the rubber peeled off one of my tires. So I got new tires and stuff, and I'm going to go, but I got no tubes. So I got to still pick up some tubes, but I'm going to go, I'm not going to enter KUA Bay, but that's my usual ride is I'll drive down to Waikoloa, park in the parking lot, ride to the Veterans Cemetery, and then back. So I'm going to see if I can time trial it.
Post it on Strava, and then you can, see where you're at. I did that yesterday. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I went, so after we swam with our masters, I went to Bike Works to get some stuff and figured, you know what, I'll just do it right here. And the wind was like blowing and I was like, oh, it's just some wind, no big deal. And I was like, I am so tired. And, you know, it's like those days, no matter how fit, conditioned, whatever you are, there's just some days that are just off. Well, that was me yesterday. And then I turn around and I come flying back and I'm like, oh, maybe the wind was a little bit harder than I was giving it credit for. Like, that was hard. But
Oh, that was,
should be
that was,
better.
that was like the Mini Monster Carl's race a few years ago, where the wind was so nasty. It was behind you on the way out, but on the way back, it was 50-mile-an-hour headwinds all the way back for, 13 or 16, 20 miles, 25, 26 miles and stuff.
Brutal.
Of course, I to show to maybe our viewers can understand how we are here on the Big Island. There's already the hot shots, like a few people I won't mention, cyclists who are already trying to figure out how they can pick a day where there's tailwind.
Yeah.
So they'll have an advantage on the time trial.
I saw that conversation.
It's like, come on, guys.
I was like, well, just make sure you include me in that thread. Keep it fair for everyone.
But I think it's good that people are being able. It gives some people something to focus on. We were lucky enough to have the race up at the winery in Volcano. I guess it was last week.
Weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of a substitute maybe for the Kau half marathon.
Okay.
Because it was a trail run and stuff. And then Alex and Billy are doing in November. They're going to do it on Jennifer Rial's property. They're going to do a 50K and a 50-miler. 8-mile, I saw they were cutting the trail yesterday, and it's an 8-mile loop with 4 or 5 stream crossings.
Oh, wow. We were just talking about that yesterday, too, with my friend Dan, because we were wondering if it was still going to happen since everything had been canceled in November even. So
she's got it. I mean, she did a great job at the winery. There was plenty of spacing. I ran just to see as a test. I ran in one of these, a KN95, which doesn't have a valve or anything on it, but I wanted to see if I could do a race. It ended up being a 6-hour half marathon for me, but I didn't have really any issues, with the mask and stuff. I wasn't going fast enough or anything, but she's real smart. She's got things planned out pretty well. And I mean, Jennifer is a physician. So I'm kind of putting my trust in them to whether it's a staggered start or whatever we need to do. And then with the trails, like I mentioned, we're closing. Honolulu's in bad shape right now as far as runners, and it's not so much cyclists because you can still cycle on the streets. But my runner friends like Shannon, shout out to Shannon Flynn, they can't run on the trails anymore. Which is.
Oh, interesting.
It's kind of tough. I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth on it. I mean, I know that some people say we should open up everything, which I don't think is the right move. But I think in order for us to stay healthy and active, we can't just keep doing the start to stop. I don't think.
Right.
Do you do any of the virtual? What's the virtual thing called on the bike?
Oh, the Zwift. Jen does that. Yeah, Jennifer Real, she does that.
Yeah. Do you do any of that?
She's been enticing me into that. So, Jen, I got to give Jen, she started in my spin class. And she'd come to my spin class and she'd do this. And I was like, whoa, she's kind of intense. Like, okay, she's really focused. And she'd just get into class and she's just like, and then as soon as she got a road bike, I've never seen her since, except her ponytail sticking out the back of her helmet. So she's awesome. So it's been really fun to watch her whole thing, but she's been trying to like lure me into the Zwift world. And I thought maybe during COVID I would kind of get into that, but then, people weren't showing up, so I wasn't making money. So I wasn't seeing the need to spend any money. So I'm like, well, maybe now's not the time. I thought it was the time, but maybe it's not the time. But it looks interesting. It looks fun. I could see myself getting competitive in that venue.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm impressed by people who can do it and not get bored. I mean, I can relate to your story previously about, you know, where you were focused on swimming and doing it every day and everything. I was living in Colorado back in the 80s, 70s and 80s and stuff, and I had a bike set up on a stationary bike in a, you know, in condos they have a little storage unit. It's got no windows and stuff. I put the bike, the stationary bike, in the storage unit. Or it actually might have been on a trainer, might have been on rollers. I can't remember. And a small black and white TV. Every day I was working night shifts, you know, because I was emergency personnel. I would ride from like 10 in the morning to about 1 in the afternoon, and then start my shift at like 2:30 in an enclosed box,
Yeah.
which was now, I don't know if I could do that now.
So when I was training for Ironman, I was firefighting. So I did a lot of my long rides on my trainer just to get the endurance in. So I just set my trainer up in the bay, and, you know, the guys would be washing their cars or making dinner or whatever they're doing on their off time. And I'm out there on the bike. 3 hours later, they're like, if we get a call, you're going to be useless. And I was like, no, if we get a call, I'm going to be warmed up and ready to go. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then, but, you know, it was like, I needed to do the longer runs outside of the station, you know, and then obviously swimming had to be outside. So it was just the one thing that I figured that when I'm at the fire station, I ride my bike, and then I'll run on my, you know, so.
Where did you run on Kauai? Did you run up to that god-awful golf course?
God, what god-awful golf course is that?
Oh, it's the one on the Kauai Marathon course.
Oh,
you know,
so,
you go,
I have never done Kauai Marathon, and they didn't really have any races when I was there. They did Hyannis to Honolulu, which I love. I love that race. No triathlons. So the canoe clubs were kind of picking up. My friend Pam Cruz, training partner friend, she runs a personal training business on Kauai. She was doing the Koloa days, plantation days, 5K, 10K, you know, so she kind of orchestrated that. That again, I think has been passed off to a canoe club. But there was a couple little things. Waimea days, they had a 5K run, and that I liked that one because it was flat.
yeah.
So I was like, ooh, let's
the
go.
other Waimea, yeah.
The other Waimea. But they didn't even have, you know, it's like they do the meadow, the cycle to the meadow ride up.
Yeah, Kauai was started by I won't get into the politics of Kauai and Maui, but it goes through you start in Poipu, you go through the tree street.
Tunnel of trees.
The tunnel of trees, and then you take a left, and then you go up towards Kalaheo. You go uphill there, and there's a golf course that's up there. And it looks like a cemetery. So at mile 21, you can ask Bree next time you see Bree about Kauai course, because from mile 18 to 21 is like Koloko, pretty much uphill at the wrong spot in a race. But it's I love Kauai. I love the people who put it on. Sorry, Robin, I couldn't.
I was just gonna say, Robin Jumpers, we paddled together. She was on our winning crew, paddling.
She's a sweetheart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever
I had a friend. Her birthday's today. Kylie Moo. There's a shout out to Kylie. She just posted that she wants to walk it. Anybody want to walk the Kauai Marathon with me 2021? So I was like, walk. And she makes a little comment like, I'm walking, Melissa. And I go, no, I got that message. I got it.
Yeah, Honolulu so far hasn't been canceled, although John was supposed to, I think, make a decision in these few days. He's the race
Oh,
director.
does
So
that mean I'm supposed to still be training for my sub 4?
honestly, I don't think he can pull it off. I just don't think with the
I
hit
don't see how
miss,
you can.
the
I would
travel.
probably, I wouldn't go, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, if he could have worked out a deal with Japan to get a bunch of people coming from Japan that was all safe and isolated and everything, and in
Mm.
somewhat of a bubble, might have happened. But I mean, it's the problems of any race director that has. If you don't have enough people, you can't really afford to do the race, and he's just kind of hedging his bets. And I know on Ironman it had to do with the 45-day out thing, which is I'm surprised they canceled Honu because it's more than 45 days, and it's the refund policy. If it's within 45 days when they cancel it, they don't have to give you a refund.
Oh, well, they gave us options to roll it into next year, or there were some other halves that, that Utah, or there was some other options that we could have entered into.
Yeah,
I'm just going to keep it for next year.
I still have hope for the Gila Volcano 50K, because that's usually the first week of next year.
Right. And I wanted to do that one, but I knew I wasn't trained to do that one come in December, because I had planned out, like in November, I kind of do my year plan. What does it look like? And I had a race or two scheduled every month. I was going to make 2020 epic. It's going to be amazing. And I was going to do, and it was my last, so this is like my last year in my 40 to 44 age group, right? Because now I bump up to 45 next year. So I was just going to make 2020 epic. It's going to be amazing. And so January 1st kind of came around, and I was like, oh, what, like, am I going to run this event on, what is, it was like the 4th or something like that?
Yeah. First Saturday.
Yeah. And I hadn't done it, hadn't pulled it off. And then Sylvia passed, and I was like, I have to do this. I am going to get hurt. This is a bad idea, but I got to go. And just totally random, Keely McGee and
Adam, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm totally spacing. Anyway, I grabbed a team together, and they showed up for me, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it just all happened. And I kind of have to say my whole year, as it's kind of gone downhill, is really still inspired by Sylvia. I tell people to find somebody that inspires you and to be inspiring. Like, that's my two biggest things. Like, we all live off of inspiration, something that makes us like, ooh, I want to try that. Or, ooh, you see a picture of something good to eat and you're like, ooh, that looks good, right? We're inspired by this. We'll find something positive that's going to motivate you to do something for yourself that's going to make you better, and be inspired by that. And then in doing that, you inspire others to do the same. And it's that whole trickle down effect, of just living good lives and being the best people that we can possibly be.
I think that's maybe a perfect spot for us I need to let you go. I'm sure you got a ton of things that you got to do, but you are inspiring, you are inspired, and I'm lucky enough to have you as a friend, and to be somebody that, I love you guys, you know that.
Awesome. Vice versa. Uncle Joe, it's always a pleasure to see yourself at the races and see you there. You're always there. You're at every race, and it's inspiring. So thank you for sharing this platform and allowing people to share their stories. I really believe that if people understand each other a little bit better, that we'd be kinder to each other as well. So thank you.
Okay, we can do a virtual on the screen high five here somehow. Oh, mahalos to Melissa for taking the time in a busy schedule to let me chit chat with her, talk story with her, as we say here in Hawaii. Amazing people that I know. I'm just fortunate to know everybody, and to be given the opportunity to kind of broadcast a little part of who they are. Melissa's got quite an amazing story, that 90% of which I did not know either. So again, thank you, Melissa. Mahalo for that. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, please do click on subscribe. If you want to visit the webpage, it's hawaiiultra.com. If you want to donate at our Patreon site, it's again, patreon.com/hawaiiultra. And we'll also be setting up a donation button Melissa requested to be for the Hawaii Food Bank. And tomorrow, she said, although this broadcast probably won't be out, well, it'll be out tomorrow, hopefully, which is Friday. It will be World Food Bank Day. So again, hope everybody's staying safe, staying active, like Melissa said, getting out if you can, being responsible, and certainly showing aloha.